Were the expectations too high for Killian being drafted 7th overall? For the people watching the YouTube stream right now, feel free to send us in your thoughts. What were your expectations for Killian Hayes when he was drafted 7th overall? But expectations, this comes from James Edwards' recent tweet, and I thought it was interesting. I did disagree with him on a little bit, but I'm going to read it for you guys. He says, I'm always curious if people base expectations on number 7 picks from the NFL. The number 7 pick in the NBA isn't the same as number 7 in the NFL. Being a role player with that pick is fine. Look at the last 10 number 7 picks before Hayes. 8 are just role players or out of the league. So what are your thoughts on James Edwards' tweets? Let's just talk about the actual pick of number 7. Do you think most people think of it as like he's saying, like the NFL, that we shouldn't have day one aspirations for players with the 7th overall pick?
Yeah, just for context to his tweet, I mean, like he did talk about it on his podcast, and like a lot of the guys that he named had really short stints in the NBA or are no longer in the NBA, and Steph Curry is like obviously the anomaly at 7. But I think the expectations for him as for a fan base, I think a lot of fans, like they wanted Killian. Like I remember when I went on your podcast before, I wanted Killian. Like, but my expectations were, I knew he was a project. And I think some people saw the highlights. They saw this kind of James Harden-esque step back threes. They saw him, playing in Germany, like, oh, wow, this is the guy. This is a point guard we could build around. But like, I think fans kind of looked at those highlights and they didn't really watch like the full games. They didn't see him struggle. They didn't see the turnovers. They didn't see any of that. But I think I'm still in the Killian Hayes camp. I think he can be a good player, but he's a project player. Like if you wanted a player during that draft class, in my opinion, Tyrese Halliburton should have been the pick because he was a NBA ready point guard to produce right away. And I think we can both agree there.
Yeah, no, definitely on that. But I guess what I'm asking is, with the 7th overall pick, should the expectations be, look, this guy's going to be a project no matter what? It's not like the NFL. You should not expect someone to be a day one starter or a day one role player with the 7th overall pick. Like, I think that's where I disagree with James. I do agree with him about the NFL part, but these last few draft classes, you have gotten day one starters or day one role players, guys that contribute immediately, picks 1 through 7. Like, I don't think that's an unfair expectation for the 7th overall pick, because the guys coming into the NBA, especially the last few draft classes, they've been really talented. They've been really skilled. They've been really good, and they've been able to help immediately. And I think that's where the frustration comes from fans, because I'm in the school of thought that if you're drafted 7th overall, you should be able to help the team from the beginning. You can still be labeled as a project, but you should have enough skills to be able to contribute from the beginning, that you are from day one. You should be able to do that with being a 7th overall pick. And that's where I disagreed with James on it.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think it kind of depends of if you ask a fan, like, what you value out of a 1st overall pick, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's where people kind of disagree, and there's disagreement with Killian because he was a 1st overall draft pick. And they're like, well, if he's a number 7 overall draft pick, then he needs to be averaging 15 points a game. And I think that's where people and fans' expectations are really high right now. It's because he's not, continuously, averaging like 12 to 15 points a game. So they consider him a bust because he's not up to their expectations. But I mean, over these last couple of games, it looks like he's more confident. I mean, he had 15 points last game. He looks like the 7th overall pick. And I think that's what fans are kind of getting at. Like, that's what I expected when we drafted him. But they don't want to admit that he was a project player, and it's going to take him a little bit of time to, get up to maybe a Tyrese Halliburton level or maybe a Cole Anthony level or whatever it may be.
So let me ask you this. How many games of Killian playing the way he's played right now, how many games will it take do you think, for fans to drop the bust label we've placed on Killian? I'll admit I've been critical of Killian pretty much this entire season. I've stopped tweeting things out, good or bad, about Killian. I did have one tweet where I was praising him because even though I have been critical, I hope he makes me eat my own words. I hope he makes me look stupid. It becomes a special player, or at least a solid contributor for the Pistons. But again, how many games do you think of Killian playing the way he's played right now will it take for fans to stop calling him a bust?
I think he would have to probably keep up this pace for the rest of the season. Honestly, Pistons Twitter can be a very positive place when they're winning, but a very negative place when you get blown out. So, I mean, I see the tweets, I read the tweets. Pistons Facebook, I don't advise. I really don't. It'll make you question your sanity at times. But I think if you, to your question, how long would it take? I think you'd have to do it for the rest of the season because fans' expectations are so high for him because he was a first overall draft pick, and they just don't understand that, when you're a project player like he is, it's going to take a little bit more time for him to put everything together because he was so raw offensively coming out of the draft.